We'd been looking to make a film about SEGRO for about 3 years. One of the big issues was the inability of a number of companies I spoke to really understand what SEGRO does. Not in a commoditized sense, because really we build 4 walls and a roof in its simplest form, but to capture really the brand story, the purpose of SEGRO, which is about us being an enabler.
Hi, I'm Simon from Big Button. We're the strategic video agency that was asked to help SEGRO produce the contraption, as well as helping to develop the creative in the first place. I was heavily involved with the build of the machine, and I wanted to introduce Nick as well.
So I'm Nick, I'm a mechanical sculptor. I make things that move out of disparate parts. Simon and co brought me in because I've got a bit of experience with chain reaction stroke Rube Goldberg machines.
So we're here today really just to kind of watch through the film and to give people a little bit of insight into what went on behind the scenes. So we should say everything you're about to see was filmed in a single take.
It was.
Really important, took a lot of work.
Hello, I'm Sir Noel Mobbs.
Right at the start, obviously, Sir Noel Mobbs there. We wanted to feature him in it because obviously, you know, he's the one who made all this happen in the first place.
Fascinating to see how one.
And don't blink because you'll miss it. This is where the marble gets released.
Initially, that was scripted to be a Malteser because Mars are a really early customer. But we found out a Malteser going down a tube has got no inertia.
Yeah.
So it got changed to a marble. So those chocolate bars are all Mars ones.
Yeah, triggering the bags, triggers the rice, which are just hanging on a piece of
Tape.
I've got to admit, I didn't think the tape would work.
This is pretty much how I conceived it. And I thought, oh, we're going to need to fiddle around. It might need 2 rolls of tape, but it pretty much worked straight off. This little patch has got a few references to parcel tape and packing tape because, you know, I'm sure loads of their clients are going to be using that stuff, boxing
like
stuff
Amazon,
up.
for example. Yeah.
Exactly.
This section was pretty reliable. It used to run almost every time. There was one time the wheel fell and didn't make it through.
Yeah,
and there was always that moment where you weren't sure whether it was going to make it each time.
Yeah, it's nice that you kind of can't see it. It's like, is it going to pop out the other end or not?
We should have said getting that concrete thing in place.
It weighed a lot. So it had to be in the right place because it was the one thing we couldn't move. So we sort of worked outwards from that. We knew roughly where to put it and it was fine, wasn't it? But it got craned off the back of a truck. So round comes Thunderbirds 2.
Filmed in a SEGRO space, Thunderbirds originally. Going down to the water buckets, which obviously trigger the chair. Now that changed, didn't it? Originally it was soap, and I thought it was a genius idea.
Yeah, it was soap from Lush, so mounted on the bottom of each foot. So the idea was that dry, it would have enough friction to stay where you put it, and then you introduce water and it gets a bit soggy and slidey enough. But that was hard.
Yeah, in theory that works. The trouble is you can't get water under the soap. If the soap's on the surface, the water goes around the soap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, possibly you could have pulled it off, but it was just eating up too much time.
The Brompton bikes, that was the first thing that I built myself. You can see there's basically 3 bikes there that go from fully open to fully collapsed, the kind of 3 stages of a Brompton bike. We wanted to see those 3 stages all sort of run out by themselves.
And this was great in that it was amazingly reliable and it pretty much worked out of the box, as it were. But yeah, it was, you know, I didn't know if that was going to work at all, but it was good. It was pretty reliable. The sound waves have gone down there, set that coin off. Now we've got a lemon battery pushing that solenoid on the tablet. Actually, it was one of Alex's idea when we were walking around. He said, "Oh, what about making a battery out of lemons?"
As we were walking around, there was a box of lemons, and it just reminded me of a science experiment in school where we created electricity from fruit. I thought, oh, that's interesting, and I mentioned it to Nick. So could you maybe do something with that? And I think it obviously stuck in his mind, and next thing I knew, there was a box of lemons creating electricity.
Bit of a breather. It's a 5-second delay. It's a Tocker machine that's fired by a Bluetooth app for training footballers, which hits our board, which slowly falls over and knocks over the arcade picture.
And that releases a little safety pin on an arm, and on the arm is a small dumbbell. The dumbbell rolls down the arm, and as it gets to the end of the arm, that pushes the button on top of the smoke machine. Smoke machine does its thing, and then it pushes a board which releases the umbrellas.
I spent quite a lot of time experimenting with that because obviously what we wanted was through a series of pulleys, that one weight falling off the top of that data center is enough to pull a rope which goes up to those 3 ropes on the top of the flagpoles and releases a knot. So obviously the knot had to be in such a way that you could pull those umbrellas up to reset it every time, but if you pulled the other side of the rope, it would release them kind of reliably. Now, I think the thing, again, we hadn't anticipated is when you release an umbrella from height, it doesn't just come down like Mary Poppins style. It kind of like flies around upside down and all that kind of
so
stuff.
there was a bit of amending the umbrellas, with little vents on the top to try and we ended up using weights.
Yeah, counterbalances underneath it. And even then,
Yeah,
even with all that weight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as you say, it's a long way off the whole Mary Poppins.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you'll see, so the idea is the last umbrella hits the sheet.
Yes.
And we've extended that last piece of ribbon just so it was a higher chance it would hit that sheet, which triggers the lighting desk, which took quite a lot of programming, but it looks quite nice from that back wall. We're filming in a light environment.
Yes.
And we hadn't worked out, for some reason, once we got the solar panel up and thought, hold on, it's already light, so putting light on it, how is that going to work?
Yeah, more light.
Yeah. And again, this is where Mark came in and spent God knows how many hours building a circuit for us.
And it's the same principle as the Lemons, isn't it? In that the release system on the trolley is actually powered by the battery, and it's the switching that's powered by the solar panel.
The accuracy of having a PV panel that is 99% fired up, but not 100% fired up, that needs to have those disco lights hit the panels for a second to hit that 100% for something to happen, is incredibly demanding, incredibly clever. And it did. And then it releases the Royal Mail trolley to roll down, which then just hits that wooden pole that releases the water into the bath bombs. So the whole thing it's poetic and artistic and beautiful. I love that bit.
So that's released the 2 arms on the cisterns, so they're pouring 6 litres of water down into the fish tanks, which gives us enough counterweight to lift those 2 arms up.
When they meet, they pull this big, long, red, spongy rope, and we chose a springy rope so that we didn't destroy the JLR key, right?
Absolutely. So this is another one where we're taking a big motion, a big input, and asking for a tiny little input. So we're getting another button press. So it's the key fob boot button, and it moves 1.5 mil, tiny. And we've got a thing that's sweeping.
There's a lot of kinetic energy in there. Yeah.
Down goes the tagline, hitting the 7 flags from the 7 countries that SEGRO operate in.
Which brings us on to one of my favourite bits. So we've got an airline seat in here.
I remember it was the airline seat that was so difficult to organise because we had to wait to speak to the right people from the actual airline. And then once they said yes, I think the film crew was already on set and were trying to build things together. And so we had to get it to them ASAP. So then you had me calling different forklift companies in like 7 o'clock in the evening, guys, I need a forklift ASAP tomorrow morning to get us to offload a 100 kg airline seat from the actual van to the set. And they're like, no, that's not going to happen. And then luckily the film crew was, creative enough to figure out how to actually get it off the van.
This is like a demonstration piece, and you very optimistically said, oh, because it's a demonstration piece, it'll have a plug on it, a 13-amp plug on it, just plug it in.
Plug it in and off you go.
So funnily enough, it didn't have that plug on, and it operates on like
400 volts.
So initially it looked like it was just going to be this massive fancy doorstop. So then I found that this footrest, so it's a nice bit of mechanical technology on it. There was a release button, and this thing folds down, which then releases the segmented SEGRO logo, which
fires the confetti cannons. Again, that's all done by itself. It's all automated. No one's pressing the button for any of that, which reveals our big red O at the end.
Yes.
This is the only edit in the whole film. We wanted to get the iconic O in.
Yeah, you weren't going to read the O without being up here, so it would have been a shame.
And it's almost, for me, it's almost though the whole machine is building to this, and this is the reveal.
Yeah, yeah.
So the machine has made the O.
For me, it was very exciting to come to set and to see the way that the machine had taken shape. I'd been involved from the outset when we had the storyboards, and so we could see it on paper, but when you actually see the products in the space and being bolted together at times to create the machine, it was really quite special.
When you've spent long days and nights just working on this contraption and just to see it happen from start to finish, you know, I just felt so proud of it, really.
We set out to make something and we didn't waver from that. We delivered exactly what we set out to make, albeit in a slightly different route because there were various comings and goings with customer products, but ultimately we made what we said we'd do.